The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions, and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. You're listening to 2AT Second Amendment Talk right here on Armed Radio. I am Daniel Sanders, and joining me as always is Rod Burks. Rod, how you doing this evening?
Man, I'm happy to be corona-free. Thanks.
Yeah, it's pretty bad out there. We're gonna talk about all that here in just a second. But before we do, as we always do here, we want to give a big shout out to the troops, the men and women serving overseas and on the home front. We appreciate everything y'all are doing for us. Keep up the good work. Come home safe. And we're all rooting for you here back home. So, yeah, the coronavirus thing. This has gotten way out of hand. People are... The masses have become panicked. The media has panicked the masses, and it's becoming it's almost like a battle royale out there.
Yeah, and people are buying up toilet paper faster than any other supplies, I guess. It's just interesting.
Yeah, and I cannot for the life of me. I can't. I was on my way to work last night, and we finally have, here in Alabama, we finally have our first confirmed cases of the COVID-19. And I stopped by Walmart last night on my way to work. I had to pick up some stuff from hardware, and there were lines of people in both of the self-checkout areas waiting to check out. And by lines, I mean like every single register in the self-checkout was full, and then there was probably an additional 15 to 20 people waiting to check out, plus the other 5 or 6 registers that they had open in between the self-checkouts. People were waiting to check out there. It was pure chaos in that store is the best way I can describe it.
And I don't know, I don't profess to know a lot about medical stuff, but what I've been led to believe by, I think, people who do know, is that this is just another version of the flu. All flu viruses and colds and everything else are corona-shaped, right? Mm-hmm. And that it's more contagious, and the mortality rate may be a little bit higher than the flu, but it's the fucking flu, man. Wash your hands, you nasties.
Exactly. And that's the bad part about the job that I do. I'm a DJ in a bar. Those of you that listen to my other show, Two Beards Talking, you've heard my shameless plugs on my Facebook Live videos several times. So, because I am a DJ in a bar.
You're probably more apt to get syphilis at the bar than you are about getting corona.
Well, you know what they say, wrap it before you tap it, and if she's dirty, wrap it twice. But, so Thursday night, I'm at work, and I had this customer who he had this inability to speak without spitting at the same time. And oh my God, like, I can't tell you the number of times he would come over to me, start talking, and then as soon as he left, I felt the need to go hose my entire body down with hand sanitizer, if you can find some, and then at the same time also replace my drink from him being over there. I was just so concerned that it had been contaminated. And it's not that I'm a germaphobe.
Level 1.
Yeah, it's not that I'm a germaphobe or anything like that. It's I can't afford to get sick. Plain and simple.
And that's interesting because all these things are shutting down. No public gatherings. My daughter's, she works at a fast food place in Kansas City. And, she's gotten a little sick, and I'm like, hey, stay home and rest. And she's like, everything's shutting down, but the bill collectors don't stop. I've still got bills to pay. I can't not go to work, because she's dependent on that income. So, it's a double-edged sword. It cuts both ways,
Yeah, exactly. So that's the issue that a lot of the people that I know are running into. Excuse me. Yes, I'm sick, but I still have bills that I have to pay because the bill collectors, the bank where I make my car payment to, they don't care that I'm sick and I'm trying to avoid spreading this mess around. All they care about is getting their money.
And that is the world we live in. But, at the same time, I've got to wonder why all the hype about this virus. What's really going on that they're trying to distract the people from?
Well, somebody actually made an interesting point last night to me. Of course, I don't buy into it 100% what he said, but it is an interesting theory nonetheless. This whole Corona scare thing came up right after the impeachment proceedings had ended and President Trump was acquitted of any wrongdoing.
Yeah, my fiance was saying, we had Friday the 13th, a full moon, coronavirus, and daylight savings time changed, all within a few days of each other. It's time we all need a break.
Yeah, but like I said, it's a conspiracy theory, but he was thinking that this was a ploy by the Democrats because they didn't get him on the impeachment, so now they're trying to force a recession to get rid of Trump. Like I said, I'm not buying into it, but it's an interesting theory because, the timeline is right, and they have said they would do anything that they could to get rid of Trump. And of course, I'm paraphrasing that, but yeah.
Right. But, the power elite do not stay elite if the people are united.
Exactly. And
so what better way to divide people than to make them fearful of contact with everybody else? Everybody builds, they bubble up and they get all their supplies and, everybody leave me alone, which kind of brings me to my point. This is exactly the reason why we need the Second Amendment.
Right. Absolutely. So, and that actually, that actually carries us over into our next topic. And this is a very big, I'm going to call this a very big stain on Joe Biden's campaign. This viral video has come out now. He was in Detroit talking to some auto workers at a plant, some unionized auto workers, and one of the workers brought up to him, the comments that he's made, he and Beto O'Rourke, talking about gun grabbing, taking the guns away, we're coming for them, all this other stuff. And Joe Biden's response, one, was extremely unprofessional, in my opinion. He
got mad, downright angry at the guy.
Yes. And I actually have the audio clip from that video. It's about a 2-minute audio clip. So I'm going to go on ahead and play that. This is the best video that I have seen so far of this event. The camera is literally right there in their faces, so you can hear every word that is being said. So we're going to play that clip right now.
These union workers that have been working countless hours under the Trump administration, I'd like you to explain how you plan to not only keep us working, but how you intend on getting the union vote when there's a large portion of the union workers that are gun enthusiasts, and you are actively trying to diminish our Second Amendment right and take away our guns.
You're full of shit.
All right, thank you.
No, shush. Shush. I support the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, just like right now, if you yell fire, that's not free speech. And from the very beginning, I have a shotgun, I have a 20 gauge, a 12 gauge, my sons hunt. Guess what? You're not allowed to own any weapon. I'm not taking your gun away at all. You need 100 rounds.
So when you were in Beto, when you said you're going to take our guns,
I did not say that. That's not true. I did not say that.
It's a viral video.
It's a viral video like the other ones they're putting out there. It's simply a lie.
Your voice, you said that you're taking the gun.
Oh,
he just
clarified it. Wait. Take your AR-14s and what?
Okay, this is not okay.
Hold on.
All right.
Hey, let's
don't tell me
anything,
pal. I'm going to go outside.
There's a lot of guys,
wanted. Man.
I'm not worried.
Hold on. So much.
Give me a break, man. Don't be
You're
such a
pushing
worried
up on me.
Hey, there's a lot of
Hey.
Speak to Joe.
Look, here's the deal.
Go
Here's the deal. Are you able to own a machine gun?
Why on a machine
I said, are you able to own one? I'm the law.
Machine guns are illegal.
That's right. So AR-15's illegal.
How is that in a machine gun?
No, it's not.
Semi-automatic.
Yeah, do you need 100 rounds? Do you need 100 rounds?
In America from handguns, and there are what you call assault rifles. Why are you advocating for assault rifles when people are dying by handguns?
Hey, no. Come on, do this.
Okay, so there, you heard it plain as day in all of that. Joe Biden was just being a straight up dick to this guy. He was a dick to his assistant.
Well, it wasn't just to the guy. Yeah, even when he started, you hit the nail on the head. He's like, shush, you know, like telling somebody who's trying to help him to shut up because whatever she had to say wasn't relevant.
Exactly. And that was one of Biden's assistants. And, you know, she could tell that the auto worker was, I won't say he was hostile, but it was definitely an aggressive. I wouldn't even call it aggressive. I'd say it was a very legitimate question. And, you know, she was trying
it was
to
very curt, very to the point.
Yes.
Like calling him on his bullshit.
Yeah. And she was, okay, thanks for your question. We got to move on. Biden took it upon himself. No, shush. I'm going to answer this guy. And he did not do it. One, he did not do it in a professional manner. If you are a public servant, which is any politician, in my opinion, you are a public servant. You have been elected by the public, and you are serving the public. You are a public servant. When the guy said, "You work for me," and Biden's response, "No, I don't. You know, quit being a horse's ass." That is incorrect. You do, as a public servant, as a elected official, you work for the people of America. You're not working for yourself. You're not working.
But you see, I think that his statement just goes to prove that he doesn't see it as a service to the people. You know, he sees it as, you know, we are just people to be ruled over.
Right. So, but, you know, like I said, the woman on his campaign, she was trying to help him. Okay, thanks. We're going to move on now because if you talk, you're gonna make an ass of yourself. I can see you're getting angry. We just need to move. No,
yeah, it was
shush.
Ambushed, and he walked right into it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I do not have the audio clip from this viral video the guy was talking about, but it is Joe Biden, Beto O'Rourke, and some woman. They're sitting at a table in a restaurant, and he flat out says, in reference to guns, "We are coming for them." that's you.
And I also thought it was interesting that you can't yell fire in a movie theater. And yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's not protected speech. But for him to then go on to say, well, AR-14s, of which I think he meant AR-15s, should be illegal too. So, okay, so anti-tank mines and rocket launchers and HIMARS, these are all unlawful for citizens to purchase, own, and use, unless you have, I think, a Form 10 through the ATFE. So the point is that his intention is to continue to erode people's rights to the point to where, his control is absolute.
Right. And, the guy, the auto worker, he made a valid point towards the end of the video. He calls Biden out saying, you're advocating for assault rifles. I hate that term with a passion, but I'm quoting the video. You're advocating for assault rifles when more people are being killed by handguns than what you call assault rifles.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's necessarily a hill we want to die on. As Second Amendment people, we need to defend all of our rights and not try to shift the narrative to, oh, well, take away our handguns because they kill more people, right?
Yeah, I agree. That's not a battle that needs to be fought. But, at the same time, it is a valid point. As we've pointed out on the show before, they're going to start off with what they call assault rifles, AR-15s, or in Biden's case, the AR-14. I've never seen an AR-14, but I kind of want to see one now. Is this like the prototype precursor?
I think it's a semi-automatic hand sanitizer dispenser.
Oh, man. Well, I could definitely use one of those right now for sure. Oh, man. But, yeah, okay, so I get it. People, and I've done it before too. In the heat of the moment, I've, spoken before I thought, and words didn't come out properly. I get that. That's probably what happened here. But I mean, come on, you're a freaking politician. You're campaigning for office. Think before you open your mouth. And that did not happen here.
Well, I'm glad he said it, because I think it shows his true colors.
Yeah, it does. 100% it does. For him, first and foremost, for him to, as a public servant, as a politician, as a man campaigning for the office of the president, the office of the highest office of the land, for you to flat out tell somebody you're full of shit when you know for a fact that he's not, is just, I mean, that's low. Granted, most politicians are already low to begin with, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show that he's a power-hungry elitist who will continue to, if elected, to take away our rights in order to exert more control and improve his own wealth, right?
Yes. So, it's, and then there's another topic in there that I discussed right at the end of the video, machine guns. So we're going to clarify this for people, because this is what he says is a misinterpretation of the truth. When Biden asks the auto worker, do you own a machine gun? Are you able to own machine guns? And the guy says, no, machine guns are illegal. Well, that's right. Machine guns are illegal. So should AR-15s be, so on and so forth. So this is the misinterpretation of that. It is illegal for people to own machine guns if they do not have a Class 3 federal firearms license. If you have,
and it's not just any Class 3 license.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We'll clarify that as well. You do have to have a certain federal firearms license that permits you to own machine guns, explosives, things of that nature. So, like I said, it's a misinterpretation of the truth. It is not 100% illegal for somebody to own machine guns, explosives, rocket launchers, things of that nature. You can obtain a license if you have deep enough pockets and a clear enough background check, but it is possible to legally possess these items.
And realize that whether you're an importer or manufacturer, that you're subjecting yourself to an enormous amount of scrutiny. I mean, people just showing up to your house to do, basically inspect and make sure that you're keeping everything on the up and up with regards to paperwork and whatnot.
Yes, because I am now a certified gunsmith. And was looking at opening my own gunsmithing business. I was coordinating with a rep from the ATF and everything, and he was explaining to me that as a Class 3 FFL holder, one of my responsibilities is ensuring that the firearms are properly secured on premises, so on and so forth. And he even told me, even though I would have the guns locked away in a safe, so on and so forth, if I was not present and a member of the ATF showed up to do an inspection, which they do to check records and so on and so forth, if I am not present, they show up at my house and another member of my family is in the house, even though the guns are locked away in a safe and they don't have access to the combination or whatever, or the keys, I can still be prosecuted for allowing somebody who does not have an FFL, quote unquote, access to these firearms. Just simply because of the fact that I am not on the property.
Right. And I mean, gosh, I want to think that the ATF is on our side because, the more people who have either home-based or retail FFLs, it's really job security for the ATF. But at the same time, it's big government. They don't really care as long as they get their paycheck, right? As long as they're getting paid to do their job, they don't really care about, being sustainable and longevity.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, just clarifying, it is not 100% illegal to own machine guns, explosives, things of that nature. You just have to have deep enough pockets and the patience to sit through months of interviews and background checks to be able to have these things.
Right. I mean, like, we've talked about suppressors before. What are your thoughts on the binary triggers?
I've not had a whole lot of experience with them. What I do know about them, they just, to me personally, I don't, again, because I don't have enough experience with them, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask this, but from what I have seen of them, they do fall within ATF regulation, because the ATF defines machine gun as basically being able to, here we go. National Firearms Act defines machine gun as any weapon which shoots, is designed to shoot, or can be readily restored to shoot automatically more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger. So that does not describe a binary trigger. Binary trigger is you pull the trigger, squeeze the trigger rather, fires off a round, bolt resets, hammer resets, and then when you release the trigger, another round is fired. Same action is followed, so on and so forth. It's just basically reversing the action, releasing off of the trigger. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't have enough experience.
Right, so the function is different.
Yes. But the function is still the same at the same time. It's still one single action of the trigger because it does not necessarily.
Well, no, because the trigger is resetting, right? So that's another function.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's you've changed the function, but at the same time, the function is remaining the same because in the definition it says by a single function of the trigger. It doesn't say by pulling or squeezing the trigger. It just says a single function, which is either squeezing the trigger, one function, single, or releasing the trigger, one function, single.
Yes.
My concern is I've seen I've seen some where you're not able to safely disengage the weapon, disengage the firearm. So, I've seen some where you squeeze the trigger, you fire off a round, and then you have to release the trigger to fire off that other round to place a weapon back in the safe. And this may have been at the very start of the design of the binary triggers. They may have improved on that since then. But I have seen videos where they would have to fire a round by squeezing, then fire a round by releasing before they could place the weapon back on safe.
Yeah, and I think it's part of it I think is novel. It'd be just cool to be able to do a mag dump in a few seconds with something like a PS90. In fact, I just met a guy the other day. He's the owner of Double Tap Triggers LLC, and he was showing me some videos of him with PS90, Chris Vector, MPX, and some AR platforms where he's made these binary triggers. And man, it is just cool. But yeah, I wanted to get him on the show today to ask him about that safety feature. Across all platforms, are you able to safe the weapon after the first round before the second round?
Yeah. And, you're right. It is a novelty thing. I had a slide fire stock when they were still legal, and, it was fun until I realized, shit, that was a 30 round mag that I just dumped. That was like $15 that I just wasted in 5 seconds. So,
unless you reload.
Yeah.
I think everybody who considers themselves even a partially prepper or somebody who's ready would at least have the minimum stuff to reload their most regularly used caliber.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a quote unquote prepper. I do consider myself ready, and by ready I mean if shit hits the fan, then the very first place I'm going to is a place where I know there are going to be guns and ammunition, and I'm going to hope and pray to God that it has not already been rat fucked by the time I get there. And if I've got to, I really hate to put it this way, but it is survival of the fittest, not Murphy's Law, Darwinism, so on and so forth. I'll do whatever I have to do to survive, and then whatever's yours has now become mine.
Right. So here's the end of the world, or the apocalypse, or the second coming of Christ plan. Because I know I'm not making it into heaven. I don't subscribe to their philosophies. But piracy. Get you a really big sailboat and about 11 other people who are not necessarily like you. You need people who are able to farm, people who have medical knowledge, able to treat illnesses and injuries and things like that. You need your shooters, right? But if everybody's a shooter, then who's going to raise the baby goats into full-grown goats, and who's going to take care of the chickens?
Yeah, and sew patches into clothing.
If you're going straight piracy, then a bunch of shooters. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. There's more to survival than just having guns and food. It's being able to produce food and other necessary items.
And also to protect those things, because
Yes.
you even said, hey, what was yours now becomes mine. So if everybody's got the mentality, what better way than have a sailboat? I mean, if anybody's approaching you, you're going to see them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, excuse me. So,
And that's why I say you need about 12 people, because you got to have fire watch.
yeah. God, I don't. I know it's important, but I still don't want to do Firewatch. Oh man. But yeah, it's like you said, it's survival of the fittest, it's Darwinism, it's piracy. And it's, to me, piracy in its purest form.
Yeah, but I mean, if you've got a community, right, and you can trust these people, then maybe the right answer is to fortify and defend.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking we're talking The Walking Dead, basically. What I'm trying to remember how many people they had at the very start of the show. It was like 15 or 20 people, something like that. And I kind of stopped watching the show around about season 5 or 6 because it became the same thing. We all group up, we move to this location, we fortify, couple of main characters get killed off, zombies break in, we relocate to another area. And it was that way for, like I said, like the first 5 or 6 seasons.
Yeah, I only made it through the first 2 episodes, the pilot and season 1, episode 1, and I kind of lost interest. Just because, I mean, I think we got a solid plan, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely have a solid plan for all of that. Yeah, absolutely. So that was a big rabbit trail.
Well, I mean, at least talk about it, right? I mean, it was, but I mean, I think it's relevant with, coronavirus. The media is trying to portray this pandemic that's going to kill everybody, even though it's only really affecting people who are elderly. So, children don't seem to be affected by it.
Yeah.
So as long as you care about grandpa, don't take your snotty little kids or coughing kids or whatever to the nursing home without washing their hands and putting a mask on them. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's if he can find a mask and hand sanitizer and all that other stuff. I was down in Florida on vacation this week, and my friend's girlfriend, she works for the Naval Hospital at NAS Jacksonville, and she was telling me that it started out, in most hospitals, when you come in at any entrance, they'll have like a rack set up, and it'll have like a box of masks, a box of tissue, and hand sanitizer. And people were stealing the masks and the hand sanitizer and everything off of those racks. So she said they had to come up with a way to lock all of that stuff down while they're on the racks. And then the day before I left, she informed us people were coming in and stealing the entire rack.
Wow. And so, these are people who are like, you would probably consider to be normal or good people and just wait, I mean, if the media gets its way and continues to hype up this, this quote unquote pandemic, which they're calling Corona, or COVID-19, yeah, they're getting their way. Divide the people, they're easier to control. I was explaining to my stepdaughter that a bundle of sticks, it's harder to break. So you separate them into smaller or individuals, and it's easier to snap them, break their will. And I think that's the big picture. That's what's going on. The question is why? What's going on that they're trying to get everybody not to pay attention to?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Florida, like I said, I was on vacation down there. I do not go anywhere without without my means of defense, without my firearm on me. So I am a resident of the state of Alabama. I have a concealed carry permit for the state of Alabama. I have reciprocity with Georgia and Florida, which is, the states involved in my travel. And when I got to Florida, one thing I'll always do if I'm traveling through a state or anything, before I get there, I will call up a state law enforcement agency, state highway patrol, whatever, and I will get one of their officers to give me clarification on what state laws are concerning carrying my firearm in a vehicle, carrying it on my person, so on and so forth. And when I got to Florida...
Hey, Daniel, can I interject something real quick?
Yeah.
So I have learned through my own travels that not all law enforcement officers are familiar with the laws.
Mm-hmm.
What I recommend listeners do is download an app called CCW. I think it was $1.29, but it automatically updates with every state's laws as they change. And you can change, you can input the states that you have permits with, and it tells you the reciprocities. And so you click on a state, and it'll tell you what are the laws for that state with regards to licensed or unlicensed carry. Do you have to tell law enforcement, so on and so forth. So it is well worth the less than $2 it cost to know for a fact what the law says.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm actually looking at the app here on the Play Store. It's $1.99 on the Google Play Store. So let's see here. It's 4.8 stars, which is very good. So it has a reciprocity map, shall issue details, may issue, so on and so forth, signage laws. Yeah, this looks pretty interesting. I may have to invest in this.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I get questions. I'm a CWP instructor. I get questions all the time, and instead of just shooting from the hip, I'll ask them, hey, give me a minute, let me do the research. This is the place I go to, because it references those state laws, so that at least I know I'm not just going off of hearsay or somebody on Facebook said, so on and so forth.
Right. But like I was saying, I contacted a state law enforcement agency in the state of Florida, and, I told them I am a licensed concealed carry from the state of Alabama. I'm traveling through the area on vacation. What is the law concerning carrying of the firearm in the vehicle? Because I know Florida considers a vehicle to be an extension of your home. And the officer that I spoke with informed me that because I am a licensed concealed carry holder, that I can carry a firearm on my person in the vehicle, but it has to be concealed. Now, the issue that I have with that in the state of Alabama, I'm a concealed carry holder. I can carry a firearm in the holster on my hip, round in the chamber, does not have to be concealed. I can have it anywhere in the vehicle. I could have it out of the holster sitting on my lap if I wanted to. I wouldn't recommend it, but if I wanted to, I could do that because my concealed carry permit allows me to do that in the state of Alabama. Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, is the same way. I'll have to look that up. But in Florida, they said it has to be concealed. Now, if they consider your vehicle to be an extension of your home, well, hell, I can walk around the house with the gun on my hip. Doesn't have to be concealed. Why does it have to be the same way in the vehicle?
Well, I think what they're referring to when they talk about, it is an extension of your house, it has more to do with, do you have a duty to retreat? Because driving around with a firearm sitting on your dash can be construed, at least in South Carolina, it is considered brandishing, and it is the same as pointing it at somebody, whether it's real, fake, loaded, unloaded, whether you intend to use it or not. It falls into that category.
Right. So I'm actually looking here at the Giffords Law Center website, and this was updated October 28th, 2019, and it's talking about guns in vehicles in Florida is the title of this. Florida generally allows a person 18 years of age or older to possess a concealed firearm within the interior of a private vehicle without a license if the firearm or other weapon is securely encased or is otherwise not readily accessible for immediate use. Lawful firearm owners may lawfully carry a long gun anywhere in a private vehicle. So my interpretation of that is 18 years of age or older, without a license, you cannot have access to a handgun in your vehicle. It has to be locked away, out of reach, but you can have access to an AR-15 in your vehicle, or Remington 308, or something along those lines. You can have access to a long gun in your vehicle, just not a handgun.
What is Florida's definition of a long gun?
You know what? That is a good question. I'm going to have to look that up because I have the generic definition of a long gun here. It says a long gun is a category of firearms with longer barrels than most other types. In small arms, a long gun is generally designed to be held by both hands and braced against the shoulder, in contrast to a handgun, which can be fired being held with a single hand. In the context of cannons and mounted firearms, an artillery long gun would be contrasted with a howitzer or a carronade, or whatever they call it. A cannon, basically.
Well, two things. One, I need a cannon. And two, is a short-barreled rifle, which is intended to be fired with two hands, but it's not long. Does it meet that criteria?
Let's see here. So, this appears to be a legal website of some sort for, official internet site of the Florida legislature. This is Chapter 790, Weapons and Firearms, under the title Involving Crimes. Reciprocity. I want definition of a long gun. Give me definitions.
Yeah, so I've noticed that it says nowhere in the Florida statute, Chapter 790, does it use the word long gun, but in the FAQs under the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, so this isn't the law. These are the people enforcing the laws. And they're saying that long guns may be purchased by persons who are residents of other states, and that's the only reference I see to long guns. So it's interesting, how words have meaning and how they can be interpreted in different ways. So that's why it is very important that whenever people say, oh, well, an assault rifle is what AR stands for, or what all AR semi-automatic guns are, right? Because when you start changing the meaning of words, you change the implications and the laws and everything associated with those definitions. So that's why, if you support the Second Amendment, you will be very anti-assault rifle terminology, and you will be supportive of everybody having the right.
Right, absolutely. And I, just like you, I cannot find anything where Florida defines what a long gun is. But if we go off of the generic definition, which I've got it pulled up here on Wikipedia. Excuse me. In reference to small arms, the actual length of the barrels of a long gun are subject to various laws in many jurisdictions. For example, by the NFA in the United States, which sets a minimum length of 16 inches for rifle barrels and 18 inches for shotgun barrels. Canada has a limit of 18.5 inches for either. In addition, Canada puts a minimum fireable length for long guns with detachable or folding stocks of 26 inches. In the United States, the minimum length for long guns with detachable or folding stocks is 26 inches with the stock in the extended position. Examples of various classes of small arms generally considered long arms include, but are not limited to, rifles, carbines, shotguns, muskets, blunderbusses, submachine guns, personal defense weapons, wall guns, and musketoons.
Bigger guns, more ammo. That's all I can say.
Yes. I kind of wouldn't mind having a blunderbuss, to be honest.
Is that what they use in the movie Loopers?
It's something similar to it. And I know you said that before the show, I know you were saying that you wanted a bowling ball cannon, a 216 millimeter. I would have to. I'm curious.
Yeah, you did the math on that.
Yes, I'm curious. I want to get clarification on that because, a cannon is essentially a muzzleloader. It's the exact same concept as a muzzleloader, and I want to get clarification on the legality of owning something like that because I don't think there's any limit as far as.
I'm on the ATF's website now. Give me a second.
Yeah, I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any restriction concerning caliber size or anything like that. So, I'm curious. Let's see here.
Okay, so destructive device was pretty vague.
Okay, so I just went on Google and I typed in, is it legal to own a cannon? It says cannon shells are classified as destructive devices in the U.S. under the 1934 National Firearms Act. They must be registered with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and, though legal under federal law, are prohibited from being owned by civilians in certain states.
Well, but a cannonball is not explosive or incendiary.
I agree. Let's see. So we'll specify it.
Oh, well, wait a minute. So it goes on to say any type of weapon or whatever name known which will or which may readily be converted to expel a projectile by the action of an explosive or propellant, the barrel or barrels of which have a bore greater than 1/2 inch in diameter.
Yeah, and a bowling ball is 8.5
50
inches.
cal is the biggest one you see.
Oh, damn. Let's see here.
So your 40 millimeter grenade launchers, yep, they're right out.
Yep. Well,
Unless
damn.
you're shooting smoke grenades.
That is true. And, I was actually reading somewhere, 40 millimeter, I think a civilian can own like I want to say I saw like a 39 or a 38 millimeter, something along those lines. But yeah, that's basically what it was. It was basically just an overgrown flare gun. Like you could shoot flares and smoke out of it. Let's see here.
Oh, well, now I'm sad that I won't be able to buy a bunch of bowling balls and launch them into the field.
Now here's an interesting question. Someone asks, is it legal to make a muzzle loading cannon? says, many black powder muzzle loaders have a caliber of over 50 cal and don't have any issues with the NFA. But if you had a 60 caliber centerfire rifle, that would probably be a destructive device, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, this is just somebody's opinion. But I am, I'm curious to find out about that. I actually want to present that question to the ATF and get total clarification from them about that.
But I mean, gosh, that kid in class that keeps asking questions, and so the teacher's like, okay, you're all getting homework because obviously you don't understand it. That's kind of my that's my take on people asking the ATF for guidance. All right, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right? If we all have a way to possess what would be an SBR, but because of a SIG brace, but people keep saying, well, what about? Well, then the ATF is going to come out and say, okay, kink it.
I can't help but wonder how many times the ATF has been asked that question. Maybe if I tell them I'm asking from a media perspective.
I think it talks about a primitive ignition system. For being the reason why it's not an NFA item.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, you raise a valid point. Like, I want to ask them, but at the same time, it's like, nah, it's probably better to just let sleeping dogs lie.
Well, either that or research, I mean, like do a lot of research, I mean, because you can go down rabbit holes but I mean, the ATF does put out a lot of opinion letters, and, it's unfortunate that those are seen as law, and that it's not written into law. But because, I mean, it's such a hot topic that people are, people are always going to try to find a workaround, which, hey, it's kind of the American way. But, it is what it is.
Yeah. And, it reminds me, going back to the slide fire stocks before they became illegal, there was a company out there who was making a similar device. It was not a stock. All it was a pistol grip for your AR or AK, whatever. And it was the exact same concept, but it allowed you to keep the same stock that you had on there. So you could use a fixed stock, or if you had a collapsible stock or folding stock or whatever, you did not have to replace the entire stock and pistol grip with this one-piece unit. You only had to replace the pistol grip. And the company wound up being sued for copyright infringement by Slide Fire. And I think that was more of a Slide Fire was scared that they were going to end up getting shut down or go in the hole simply because of the fact that this company allowed you to do the exact same thing, bump fire shooting, without having to replace your stock. And
right, only the pistol grip.
Yes. I can't help but wonder, even with the slide fire stock being illegal now, I wonder if this company had not folded under to this lawsuit, I wonder if they would still be around, still producing this product, because it was the slide fire stock itself that received the scrutiny and nothing else.
Yeah, you're right. And I'd have to look at the administrative action that Trump signed, making them "quote unquote" illegal.
I'm actually looking to see if I can. Yeah, this was it. It was the JT Bump Fire pistol grip, and it looks like they basically took a slide fire stock and the block component that the pistol grip slides on the trigger block, and it looks like they basically just cut the stock off of it and left you with the block and the pistol grip. And that kind of
yeah, I see.
Yeah, it makes me sad that what happened to them happened even before the Vegas shooting and all. Because I think that would have been, oh man, that would have been the ideal thing right there.
Well, one, the Vegas shooter's a real asshole because he screwed up a lot of things.
Yeah.
With regards to, the Hearing Conservation Act and bump fires and all that stuff. But, I mean, if, knowledge is not a crime, at least not yet. But if you're creative and you have hypothetically some map gas and a Sawzall blade, you could create a switch that will reset the sear with the rearward movement of the bolt. Effectively producing a fully automatic rifle.
Again, this is all hypothetical. We are not recommending anybody do this. We certainly would. No,
because doing so will absolutely make you a felon.
Absolutely. And more so, I would hate to have somebody show up at my door. Hey, we interviewed this guy because he made a fully automatic weapon from his AR-15, and he said that he heard y'all talking about how to do it on y'all's show. Yeah, no. We definitely advised against doing that. So yeah, if this is the disclaimer here and now. If you decide
information is not a crime,
yes. So this is the disclaimer here and now. If you decide to take that action, we are not recommending that you do that. And if you do so, any legalities that come from it are solely your responsibility. We take no responsibility for it here at 2AT or Armed Radio whatsoever.
Yes, thank you for that.
So, but yeah, I think I think we're running out of time here, so we're going to have to start wrapping it up. Again, I cannot stress it enough. Don't do it. Just plain and simple, don't do it. And if you do it, we told you not to do it. So, I got nothing else. Rod,
and if you do it, don't post any videos.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you
wash your hands, you nasties.
Yes, and wash your hands. That's all I got to say about that. So again, big shout out to the troops overseas. We appreciate everything y'all are doing for us overseas and on the home front, men and women in the armed forces. We greatly appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Come home safe. We're all rooting for you here back home. Don't forget to look us up on Facebook, 2AT Second Amendment Talk, as well as 2A Training LLC, Rod's training company there in South Carolina. A lot of good information there. And give us a shout out. Let us know what you think. And also be sure to turn into my other show, Two Beards Talking, with me and Donnie J, and listen to us run our mouths. Look us up on Facebook. We are doing Facebook Live videos there now, so be sure to check us out there. That's all I got to say. Rod, you got anything else?
Nope, stay safe. If you can't be good at it.
Absolutely. So, this is Daniel Sanders for Rod Burks. Thanks for listening, everybody.